The morning Jennifer Corbin was found dead, her husband had already moved on. What investigators didn't know yet was that this wasn't the first time. December 4th, 2004. Buford, Georgia. A quiet suburb of Atlanta where the streets are lined with manicured lawns and brick mailboxes and the kind of houses that suggest everything is fine. Everything is fine here, nothing to see. But inside one of those houses on a Sunday morning that should have been ordinary, 33-year-old Jennifer Corbin lay dead in her bed with a single gunshot wound to her head. Her husband, Bart Corbin, was a dentist, educated, respected, the kind of man who coached Little League and showed up to neighborhood barbecues with a firm handshake. He told police that Jennifer had been struggling, that the marriage had been deteriorating, that she had been unstable, emotional, possibly depressed. He said she had taken her own life, and for a moment, a terrible, costly moment, investigators believed him. The gun was positioned near her body. There was no sign of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. The scene looked, on its surface, exactly like what Bart said it was. A tragedy, yes, but a private one. A woman who had lost her way and made an irreversible choice. Except Jennifer Corbin had not lost her way. Her family knew it immediately. Her sisters, Heather and Rachel, spoke loudly and clearly from the very beginning. Jennifer had been preparing to leave Bart. She had hired a divorce attorney. She had been planning a future, a real one, away from a marriage that had quietly become something suffocating. She was not suicidal. She was escaping. Jennifer had 2 young sons. She was 33 years old. She had told people close to her that she was afraid of what Bart might do if she left. She did not say she was afraid of herself. But the initial investigation moved forward under the shadow of Bart's narrative. The medical examiner's ruling left enough ambiguity that no immediate charges were filed. Bart Corbin walked out of that house and into the open air of a world that had not yet caught up with him. He had taken out a $1.5 million life insurance policy on Jennifer just months before her death. Let that sit for a moment. $1.5 million. And a wife who was about to divorce him. And a gun. And a story about suicide that he told with practiced calm. But Bart Corbin made one catastrophic mistake. He had done this before. 17 years before Jennifer died, a young woman named Dolly Hearn was found dead in her apartment in Augusta, Georgia. It was June of 1990. She was 23 years old, a dental student, and she had been in a relationship with Bart Corbin. That relationship had also been unraveling. Dolly had also been trying to end things, and Dolly had also died of a single gunshot wound to the head. At the time, her death was ruled a suicide. Bart Corbin was questioned. He gave a statement. And then, he moved on. He graduated. He built a practice. He got married. He had children. He lived a life for 14 years while Dolly Hearn's family carried the weight of a death they never believed was self-inflicted. When Jennifer Corbin died in December 2004, Dolly's family came forward. They called investigators. They made noise. They refused to be ignored. And because of them, because of their persistence and their grief and their refusal to let history simply repeat itself, prosecutors in Georgia began looking at both deaths together. What they found was a pattern so precise it was almost impossible to explain away. 2 women, both in relationships with Bart Corbin, both attempting to leave him, both found dead of single gunshot wounds to the head, both deaths initially staged to appear as suicide, both scenes controlled enough to give investigators pause, both women silenced before they could fully escape. Georgia prosecutors made a decision that would become a landmark moment in the state's legal history. They charged Bart Corbin with both murders simultaneously. This was extraordinarily rare. Trying a defendant for 2 separate murders from 2 separate time periods in a single proceeding required a legal argument that the crimes were so similar in nature, so consistent in method and motive, that they formed an undeniable pattern of behavior. The courts agreed. There was no eyewitness to either killing. There was no confession. There was no surveillance footage, no forensic smoking gun that tied Bart's hand to either trigger in an absolute and irrefutable way. What prosecutors had instead was something more insidious and more damning. The architecture of a man who had done this twice, who had built a life on the silence of the women he destroyed. The evidence in both cases was painstakingly reconstructed. Forensic experts examined the trajectory of the wounds, the positioning of the bodies, the way the guns had been found. In Jennifer's case, the shot's angle was inconsistent with a self-inflicted wound. In Dolly's case, wounds and evidence that had once been explained away were re-examined through modern forensic understanding and painted a very different picture than the one originally accepted. Text messages and emails retrieved from Jennifer's phone in the weeks before her death revealed the state of that marriage. Bart had been having an affair. Jennifer had discovered it. She had confronted him, and he had responded with manipulation, with pressure, with the kind of psychological control that isolates a person before it destroys them. Jennifer was not a woman in despair. She was a woman in the process of fighting back, and that made her dangerous to him. Dolly Hearn's family testified. Neighbors, friends, classmates from dental school, people who had known Dolly and known Bart and watched their relationship deteriorate, took the stand and described a man who did not accept endings, a man who felt that a woman choosing to leave him was an act that required correction. The trial was watched closely across Georgia and beyond. Legal scholars noted the significance of the joint prosecution. Victims' advocates pointed to it as a model for how pattern evidence could be used to hold perpetrators accountable even in the absence of direct physical proof. Forensic psychologists discussed the profile of a man capable of committing intimate partner homicide not once, but twice, and then constructing a convincing false narrative each time. In September 2006, Bart Corbin pleaded guilty to the murders of both Jennifer Corbin and Dolly Hearn. He did not go to trial. Faced with the totality of the evidence against him and the near certainty that a jury would convict him on both counts, he entered his pleas and was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison. He will not be released. There was no dramatic courtroom breakdown, no tearful admission of what he had done or why. Bart Corbin sat in that room and entered his pleas with the same practiced composure that had carried him through 2 investigations over 17 years. The mask never fully came off in public, but the sentence was real. The consequences were real, and the truth, delayed for so long, had finally arrived. Jennifer Corbin's sons grew up without their mother. They were young children when she died. They will carry that absence for the rest of their lives, the gap at graduation ceremonies, at weddings, at every ordinary Tuesday that mothers and children share without thinking about how precious those moments are, until they are gone. Dolly Hearn was 23 years old when she died. She had her whole life ahead of her. She had wanted to be a dental professional. She had friends who loved her and a family that fought for her for 16 years before anyone was held accountable for what happened in that Augusta apartment. 16 years. The Hearn family never stopped pushing, never accepted the ruling that Dolly had taken her own life. They were right, and the world eventually had to acknowledge that. This case endures not just because of its legal significance. Though that significance is real and lasting, it endures because of what it says about the danger that can exist inside the most private spaces, inside marriages, inside bedrooms, inside the relationships that are supposed to be safe. It endures because 2 women tried to leave and were killed for it, and a man spent years walking free in the wake of what he had done. Jennifer Corbin deserved to raise her sons. She deserved the divorce she had filed for, the fresh start she had dared to plan, the future she had quietly begun to build. Dolly Hearn deserved to finish school, to build a career